Hello everyone, and this is my review for TNA Slammiversary 2014. And to be honest with you, again, this is another circumstance where you get a TNA pay-per-view and it doesn't really feel all that special, just because of the circumstances that happen throughout the entire show. And obviously that they threw a lot of, it felt like they threw a lot of it together at the last second. The X Division title match, the six-way X Division title match, at the beginning of the show, you know, some really cool spots in there. The problem with the match in my mind was it felt like, even though with the cool spots that they put in there, it felt mistimed, and they were using like they have the Wolves in there, and you have the tag team champions inside there. Shouldn't they be in some kind of tag team title feud at this point, or in a tag team title match on the pay-per-view instead of going after the X Division title? And they had Manic in there, which we haven't seen him in like 3 or 4 months, or something in that sense. And then you of course have Sonata as the X Division champion, who's really good in the ring, but you don't really see him all that much, and not too many people are getting behind him at this point. And then you have Crazy Steve from the Menagerie, which I'm still up in the air about the Menagerie at this point as well. It seems okay, but it feels like another comedy type gimmick that they're coming up with, and I think in the end it's just going to fall flat. But overall, it was a match that had some really cool spots in it, but it felt completely mistimed in the entire thing. Like it felt boring to watch this match. It felt like there was way too much dead time between the spots, in the terms of, you know, that you didn't really have a lot of action going on in between the high spots in there, and then you had your high spots, and then you had the finish. So that's just my own personal opinion about that match. Like I said, you had some really cool spots in there, but you didn't really get much out of it other than that. And of course they kept the title on Sonata, which you would assume they would have done at this point. The Bobby Lashley Samoa Joe match was a decent match, and we'll go through the whole situation there, because now that match was to put them in a triple threat cage match at the end of the show, which isn't a bad thing, but I'll digress to my personal opinions on that towards the end. The Knockouts title match, it was okay, but again, you have to throw this honestly stupid referee storyline with the referee becoming enamored with the beautiful people and everything, and like you have a blatant DQ happen in front of you, but the referee doesn't call it, so Earl Hebner has to get him out of there. And then when Earl Hebner was knocked out, the referee wouldn't, you know, not necessarily help him, but, you know, wouldn't get in there to make the count until Angelina Love was gonna get the count in there. So honestly, the match itself between the two was actually really good, but the referee storyline is just stupid. It never worked. I've honestly never thought it worked, and well, that's just the way they're going to go with it at this point in time. The match with Austin Aries and Kenny King was actually a really good one. It was fairly enjoyable, but again, I'll digress everything towards the end with the triple threat match in there. I'm trying to go off here. The Bully Ray EC3 match, the Texas Death match and everything. I thought, you know, everything leading up to the finish was really good, and then the finish was extremely weak. And for everyone who had completely forgotten what a Texas Death match was, it was pretty much just a last man standing match, just called the Texas Death match back in the day. And like I said, everything up to the finish was actually really well done, really good, looked brutal, and just the way that type of match should look like. And then it ends in kind of an anticlimactic variation, only because we've seen those matches end with a much harder looking hit than a kendo stick and then falling through 2 tables off the apron. So I guess I was just expecting something a little bit more harder hitting than to finish that match than what you got, because of the way they portrayed Bully Ray in the past and everything. I completely agree with putting EC3 over in this case, because honestly he's one of, with how he can cut a promo and everything, not with his whole deal with Dixie in there, which I don't really want to see Dixie on the screen anyway. But well, in a character type setting, I don't think her character's all that good. I'm okay with them putting over EC3 in this case, because he's one of the few reasons to actually watch TNA at this point, because he can cut a good promo. He's good in the ring. The people they're putting him with at this point is actually creating decent storylines with him. It's one of the few times that you see a decent storyline on the show in general anymore. So yeah, it was. The match was really good. I felt they could have ended it a little bit better than the way they did, but it is what it is at this point. The match with James Storm and Mr. Anderson. First of all, this is a growing theme throughout the night, because I hadn't been talking about a lot of the other promos that they've been putting on there, but it seemed like a lot of the TNA heels have forgotten how to get heat in any, or get the people to boo them in any way or react to them in any way. So at least 3, 4, maybe even 5 times that night, they resorted to basically making fun of the Dallas Cowboys to get the people to boo them, and in some cases got them to actually cheer them, because even when the faces were trying to put over Dallas and the Dallas Cowboys, they would get booed when they mentioned the Dallas Cowboys at some points. So it felt like they've forgotten any way to get genuine heat put on them without going for the cheap stuff. Anyway, and you can even throw that towards the faces there, because you had many mentions to Dallas and everything throughout the whole Dallas deal and the Dallas Cowboys there. So obviously everybody going for the cheap pops as well throughout the night. The Von Erichs tag team match. Honestly, I wish they would have, let them win the match if they were going to put them over in any way. Why have it end in DQ? Why not just have them win, have Jesse attack them at the end with a chair, and then you have Kevin Von Erich in there, which obviously got a gigantic pop when Kevin Von Erich got in the ring and performed the claw on Jesse in the ring, which is a good throwback there to the Von Erichs. Obviously, a lot of history in the Texas area, so I really actually like that segment. Wish they would have let the Von Erich kids actually just go over in the match and then do what they were going to do after the match afterwards. This leads me to the main event and what I wanted to basically say right off the get-go. You had the 2 qualifying matches with Austin Aries and Kenny King and Samoa Joe and Bobby Lashley at the beginning, pretty much at the beginning of the show. And that was because MVP, not on a TNA house show or event, but in another indie event, got himself hurt. So it really begs the question, is like, they couldn't ask MVP or basically their entire group of people that were going to be on the pay-per-views, like, hey, we're going to use you on the pay-per-view, don't accept indie bookings until for the month leading up to that pay-per-view, because we're building these storylines around you guys and everything. So we were, they could have respectfully asked them to not take indie bookings to prevent these injuries from happening to begin with. And they decided not to do that. They've always, it is one of the nice things about any of the people that work with TNA is that they can accept bookings from other companies, but that company runs that risk of, basing a storyline, especially with how they tape shows, running a storyline and not being able to cash in on it at the pay-per-view. Now, granted, I felt that MVP's storyline with Eric Young was just complete crap to begin with. And just his authority figure type storyline, it wasn't really working in my mind. They even just threw away the whole aspect of him being a face authority figure 2 months after he had become the 2 months after becoming the director of wrestling operations. So and then turn him heel so he could go for the world heavyweight title. That storyline wasn't working in my mind, but at least they had built it around there, and they had built this world title match around there, and now they couldn't cash in on that storyline. Basically made all those Impact shows completely worthless at that point, because they couldn't use MVP that night to have the match with Eric Young. And honestly, I don't like Eric Young as the World Heavyweight Champion at this point either. But that leads into the actual match itself. No story, no anything. And honestly, very enjoyable because there was no story in it. A lot of the storylines in TNA have been complete crap recently. And the matches that have been the most enjoyable to watch have been the ones that haven't had any build-up because they're just having a match. The Triple Threat Steel Cage match was very fun to watch. I liked the spot with Bobby Lashley at the end. He's trying to go for a spear, misses, and lunges himself outside the ring through the door. It was a great spot. Everything seemed to be well put together from him. It's, with them basically coming up with everything in the last second for that, I felt these three worked really well together and put on a really good main event. But overall, like I said, because of the circumstances of how everything went, the show itself had some really good matches in it, but didn't feel special in any way, shape, or form. And that's been the problem with TNA recently, especially with their pay-per-views. You have your Impact shows, you have the national TV shows in there. Your pay-per-views need to feel special, yet I feel like I'm watching a 3-hour Impact when watching one of their pay-per-views at this point, which is a bit disappointing because you want to see them become, a better organization. You want to see them succeed. You want to see them become an alternative to watching the WWE product, but they keep, they have periods of success in there. 2012 was definitely one of them. I thoroughly enjoyed a lot of the mid 2012 to about the mid of 2013 in there. I thought their storytelling was a lot better at that point. But a lot of what I've been seeing recently with TNA, you get decent action from time to time, but not even that anymore on Impact. You don't even see all that many of good matches anymore. And then their pay-per-views kind of just feel, you have the good matches, but they just feel like longer Impacts at that point in time. So hopefully this trend can end somewhere down the road. And hopefully in the near future, that things will look better on TV here soon, and that their pay-per-views will feel more special when they actually do air the pay-per-views. So that is my review for TNA Impact, not TNA Impact, but TNA Slammiversary 2014, and I thank you guys for watching.